Right, here we are again after a couple, well, I took Saturday off as I often do with gaming, but um, mainly because I'm so fucking wiped out I just didn't want to. But I also spent a lot of time, and this is part of what's sort of the threat, trying to set things up so that I can play additional accounts on my Shadow Legends game, because there's this benefit if you click the link, whatever, but the big benefit comes from people actually wanting to play the game. On the other hand, also, it might be interesting to try another account, another type of build towards the initial. And the newest character that came out, the Death Knight thing, is like really super uber powerful. You get that within a week of your account, and it's sort of a game changer, according to people who know a lot more than I do, across the board at every level of play. So being able to boost him up and have him as my sort of second or third early decent character would be pretty cool. I've got him, working up in my current game, but part of me says, and that early part of the play, you can play continuously for like 3-4 days. So, and that would get me to the better bonuses, more or less. And then it comes down to, okay, now that I have the better bonuses on this account, now I have to do it with 2 more accounts. So we're talking like a month's effort to get all the bonuses up, in addition to whatever I play on my normal. Anyway, where the hell are we here? Well, it looks like we still have this Canadian rail strike, which I don't know if that's correct or not, but I'm going to assume it is. I thought I was somewhere else, but I know that Black was in Canada and was fucked by it, so that's what they've got. We're getting to the point in the game where at least a couple of the players are doing well enough that they're in the stage of just shooting for that 250, not needing to hook more up. So Red and Green, the 2 people who've gone out west later in the game and have fairly sparse track. Red has this East Coast run, but it didn't end up creating a circuit. Green is very close to a circuit. It wouldn't cost them much to get it if they need it. But again, they started out with very, very good sparse track centered in the middle of the game. The other people go out west, Black and Blue, go out to the Seattle side of things, but neither of them feel like they're doing all that well in the same sort of way. And both of them have the circuit in the middle, which, there's a lot of money expended on that. So I'll start figuring out where things are actually going and moving them. I caught myself in a situation that I almost screwed up. A couple of runs to San Francisco, I didn't have track going there. Had to throw that in place. I'm on Black. I gotta think real quick what the hell I'm doing. I got nickel and tourists on board. I'm coming out. Why? I don't know. I have no fucking clue what I'm up to with this. Yeah, see, I don't know where I'm going. Like, if I've got shitty stuff, maybe I don't want to make this run, right? Maybe I just throw my cards again. Regina Machinery I can get to. Seattle Tourists. That's not a bad combo. And this third card might be my way home. I've got the fast train, a 2-point train. I think I may be okay. Now, I am Black. I have to get cogs, which I get in Toronto. I have my tourists on board. Yeah, I'm all set up. So, I just discard this. I guess the crayon rolled quite far down. Boy. So, Green had to do another hookup to Portland. $5 that I hadn't connected because my track lay before took me to the $20 limit. And it's an important factor. You can't lay all your track at once, so you know. Most of the time, early in the game, sometimes it's important. Those first 2 turns, you got to figure out which way you go, but then the middle game, you usually don't have a whole hell of a lot of money, so you're not building a lot of track all at once. You're relying on getting to the next location to build the next spur. But at this point in the game, you have enough money to build big pieces of track. And if you need to hook something up, well, quite often it's over $20. So this card is kind of iffy. One thing I could do, I have some extra movement points. I could spend $4, bump out of Birmingham, because it's so damn close, and get this Call to Miami run. It's built other than that $4 run that I'd give to Black, most direct route, and you know, they're probably not doing even as well as I am right now, especially with that rail strike. I don't know, everybody's doing okay, I guess. Santa Fe Fruit, that's garbage. I'm on the wrong side of the board. But Duluth Wood, so this is plausible. I'm not going all the way up to Portland on the East Coast, but going to New York, I have track that gets me to Portland, and I probably don't want to, you know, try to cut a shortcut there. Although it's not that expensive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets me a little shortcut that probably saves me at least a turn or two. Might be worth it. And then I do hook up to Duluth. I don't know what my next set of cards is. This may be too good a card to just burn, especially since I have to pay $4 to somebody to run stuff to Miami. So I'm going to put this aside as a spare and just continue with the runs that I was making. Of course, not able to pick anything up in Atlanta. It's only a destination. To a junction. Now, they have some time to think about it, a whole turn, but then I'm not sure which way I want to go. Obviously, if I had forgotten this, I'd have to go to San Diego first. But I actually think that's the way I want to go. Because a sugar fruit combo, balancing that, is going to be easier coming out of San Francisco. That means I'll probably pick up the less valuable cogs in San Diego, though. Because, like with green, running cogs up to Portland, maybe I just get something that sends me, that wants machinery somewhere in the west. To something sweet, a sugar run. I've got sugar on board. If I didn't have sugar on board, I would drop down to get this. Going back to Detroit, I go to Detroit, and that combines. I have the super freight, so I can haul all this stuff, you know, going back. I got to pick up the sheep in Salt Lake City, and I might as well grab the oil down in Okie City on the way back up. Do I hook? And just making sure that everything connects. I don't go to New York. I don't go to Portland, Maine. So I'm going to have to make this connection, I think. So the plan had been to go up to Atlanta. I mean, I'm going to need the connection one way or another. The plan had been to drop the sheep off at Atlanta first, and then go up to Portland, Maine, none of which is really hard. You know, I'm set up to jump off to there. Do I want to change that plan because of the higher value of this Detroit card? So that disasters don't affect me as much or whatever? I actually don't think so. I think, well, it's hard to tell. Because there's speculation goods on both routes. And which way do I want to go back? Do I want to go back through cars? Do I want to go back through oil? I guess it really doesn't matter which direction I choose. Who pulled into their destination at Norfolk, made some quick cash off the lead. I've got cattle to New York. I was going to go get my my wood for Duluth, and my next card would have allowed me to go 2 times to Duluth, but I'd have to go back and get bauxite and run it up. That doesn't make a lot of sense. What does is, hey, I just grabbed some imports, bring them to Detroit. That's on my way to Duluth anyway. This is beginning to work out and look pretty good. So I think I'm going to build that track going up to Portland. Do I have a full load? Let's get another imports. They're kind of hard to find in some places. And something got screwed up here. I bumped a nickel over. The bane of my existence is blue here. I mean, this was just stupid track. It never should have happened. I don't know why I was heading up to Montreal. I didn't have a run there. I got cut out of the decent route there that made more sense. And now I've built a shortcut, you know, costing me $6 to save me a turn, really. Not a good combo there. Something goofy. Okay, you know, if I had lead, great, that would be worth it. This is garbage. Copper to Rayleigh, this is the, hey, I chose the wrong direction if I'm going to do this, because I just want to run to Phoenix to get that copper. I don't want to waste the movement, I guess, to pick that up now. I can bounce out of San Francisco. I'll have a couple more cards. Maybe I don't have a good route going back. Although this is pretty promising. Usually it's hard to find stuff that'll take you straight west. What I got to be careful of, unless I have stuff that just hooks up to all of this, is building myself a loop in the west. Back moves forward on their run, Seattle, Regina. You know, so much of this game depends upon how good your start is. You know, everything else you kind of fall into. And I don't know, you know, how the variants to the game work. I've always shied away from them, again, because the kind of thinking as to what cards do I want and everything, I don't want that additional effort added to the game. You know, I don't mind if the game screws me over completely, like in my Harsh Rails mod that nobody who likes this game probably likes much. Well, we had one guy who actually really did like Crayon Rails, who really liked the Harsh game, but I don't know. I think he was just happy that we were willing to play Crayon Rails at all. Because, you know, normally we were like, oh, Crayon Rails sucks. But by so perverting the game and making it almost, you know, unwinnable and whatnot, he was kind of a weird guy. We all are. So, drew a hurricane that only affects them. They're the only ones on the East Coast. No train can move within 5-mile posts of the Atlantic. You have to, it's a broad area, but, and, you know, most of the track that goes to the south is going to run through there. Or most of the north-south track is going to run through there. Unless you go through Knoxville. Sorry, just have to rib on the idea. In this game, the idea of Knoxville as a railway hub is horrible. It is truly horrible. Now, the reality is there's a lot of resources nearby that may, you know, that the game doesn't represent. It just has this machinery that make it a local hub of some importance. But anyway. All right. No, you know, kind of like Pittsburgh and whatnot, which may or may not be that important in the game, right? No train within 5 of the mile post. But on the bright side, I pulled this card, which first thing that, you know, hits my eye is 24 million Los Angeles rice. Yay! Well, I don't go to Los Angeles, so let's keep looking. And a little further down, Oklahoma City wants wood. I'm already going up for wood. Awesome. You know, I got 2 mid-value wood deliveries. Yeah, they're kind of separated, but, and then I have this imports to Detroit going in kind of the same direction. Perfect. I have the extra movement points, but I can't use them. I could, and I think I will, build track to Duluth and Oklahoma City, because I want to claim those, not have to pay somebody $4. Of course, there's the problem of crossing the Mississippi is the cheapest route to Duluth, which maybe I don't want to build that track. $67 run into San Francisco. I pick up a couple of things that I need, actually, because I got Sugar to Calgary. Okay, that's not great, but if I spur off to Phoenix or Portland, but Phoenix is probably better for me, and then up to Calgary, you know, my route is not too bad. So that'll get me these two, and then I also have fruit to Cincinnati. Yeah, it's not the cheapest way to get fruit there, but I got it on board. Screw it. Sounds reasonable. So time to start building track, I guess, to Phoenix. To stop, of course, because I'm drawn away by the other game, and this is just not fun. I mean, there may seem to be an animation to my discussion and whatnot. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm enjoying playing. I'm enjoying the video part more for some reason. But yeah, I want to go through at least one more round though, get this hurricane cleared up, and well, and I want to limit it to one round if I can, and get some track built for Red and whatnot. Red makes their way down. They're very close to connecting up their fifth city now. Although, you know, we're getting awfully close to Seattle, too, here. What's kind of ugly about Red, they actually don't have a loop. They have very sparse track in a lot of ways. And this is not a cheap thing to build. Going up to there might be cheaper to go through Knoxville. Another thing that keeps Knoxville out of this game, not just the terrain around it and the cost of dealing with it, but the thing that would really make it a useful connection would be the Knoxville-Cincinnati both being, you know, of interest in a particular run or something, but they're probably not. They both have cogs, and there's coal here. Well, I think there's no other coal south, so it might be your easy way to grab coal. Where the fuck do you get coal? Cincinnati, Duluth, Salt Lake City, and Santa Fe. Yeah. So this is actually the only coal in this sort of region. And, you know, once you make this crossing, this could become really, really vital. But if the cards don't tell you to do it, you don't do it. It's too expensive. And not terribly so. It's just like, do you really want to cross the Mississippi down here? You generally have an important crossing here, and that's what you want to limit yourself to, the Chicago to Kansas City crossing. But if you're not doing that, and Red hadn't been, the other route might have made sense. Does it make sense anyway for me? That's a good question. Where am I going? I'm going to Raleigh. Calgary, Cincinnati, you know. Shit. So my mindset was just to do what I'm used to. But honestly, with my track, that may not make sense. So I spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bucks just this turn after hooking up Calgary to do this. I think I'm going to erase that. And I think it actually does make sense for me to shoot up this way. I might still keep the Chicago connection because, hey, why not? And that may end up as a loop. But right now, that Cincinnati looks more appealing. Coming from the south and going back south because I have to go to Raleigh. And I don't have Raleigh hooked up. Significantly more expensive to go up this way. But I think that's the track that I want right now. And I'm grabbing Knoxville, so that should make somebody happy at least. All right, one last play for the black. They're gonna be dropping some shit off. I draw a fucking disaster again, forcing me into something. So all trains within 7 mile posts of Oklahoma City. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Move at half rate. No movement or rail building allowed in the clear mile posts of this area. Pain in the ass, and I think I have to play another round. I need another pipe for this. And then Piggies to Vancouver. That sounds promising. I actually go through Vancouver. I'm heading to Seattle. I would have to go out of my way to go back and get Piggies. But and pay. Fuck. Oh, what else? I mean, I can go out of my way and get Sheep to Birmingham. That is possible, but I think the Piggies to Vancouver is a better move. So yeah, got a lot of movement. As I run up the stairs to get a new pipe and whatever, a little bit of thinking goes through my head. Nothing, about the game, but about how, there is significant mining activity going on throughout the West. Most of it's not represented. There's a couple of lead, but I mean, there's heavy copper mines that are being represented here, I guess. I don't know. It really got me to thinking, the commodities and where they show up is not a match to the reality. It doesn't matter too much. You don't really play this game for a simulation of, the growth of the rail net and why it's being grown, which is a pity. The game that I want does that, right? The game that I want is basically Railroad Tycoon. Because Railroad Tycoon gives you where the resources are, and then you build industry to service them. Very much like Lords of Sierra Madre, where, yeah, it's great that you're pulling copper, but you also want to have a refinery for that copper. Where are you going to put that? Well, as the railroad guy, you don't want to put it the same place the copper is. You want to invest in something so that they have to use your rail net to move things around. And that kind of thinking appeals to me. I don't know how realistic it is, but that the railroads were, fomenting industry, not exactly where things were actually located. So you wouldn't choose Butte to put your copper refinery. You'd put your copper refinery somewhere else so that you can rail stuff to Butte. But or out of Butte. There's an interesting dynamic there that I really, really like, and where the resources are where they actually should be, and then the desire for those resources comes from the industry that has them, and the size of cities just ends up demanding certain stuff. Now, the further you transport stuff, the more money you make. There's no question about that in that kind of system, just like there is here, but you're establishing, and the Winsome type setup, it kind of represents this. The Winsome setup kind of represents this, where there's a commodity that's desired here, although they're very, very abstract with just cubes, with no real link to what they actually are. But a lot of these games, Chicago Express does it. Steam is the one I'm most thinking of here. Where you're picking up specific commodity, some kind of commodity that's desired somewhere else, hauling it there, and then that fixes your income, forever. What you've done is set up a train route, and you don't have to do the pickup and delivery every time or anything like that. Now, of course, in that game, it's not really a pickup and delivery game. It's just building those networks, which is more appealing to me. I'm not a big fan of pickup and delivery, but this provides what I have to say is an interesting set of puzzles throughout the game. It's a puzzle board and a game full of puzzles. Optimization puzzles. And with the tornadoes dying down and people having moved where they want to, Red should have built some track. Got Cincinnati. I got Calgary. Oh well. Yeah, let me build the rest of my track. I did Black's turn, but I'm just in a hurry to get away. Little connections. One thing that is really an odd situation that every now and then comes up is somebody runs real close to where you want to go. And one of these big routes going out here, but not quite there. And if you're not playing with the sort of mercy rules that allow you to junction off somebody else's track and just build something, you try to convince them, hey, look, I'll be running you for 2 turns. You'll get $8 off of this if you build this spur. But if you don't, I can't do this run, and, you know, it just doesn't work, you know? And so, like, for $3, they make 8, they get a claim to a city. It's a really neat little situation. Very, very rare. But every now and then it's important. All right, that is it for now. I'm going to go fiddle around with a new account and see if I can get any goodies or at least get my fix. Because honestly, here's the thing. It's like, now that I've gotten high enough level, I could spend resources in Shadow Raid, but if I do, I'll be poorly positioned. There's an event coming up that I want to have a lot of resources on hand for, so that I can try to reach the special bonus for that event. So I'm just holding off, and you know, they're giving a prep round and everything, and trying to collect up what I can. And if I can collect up some of what I can off another account by getting this bonus, that's cool. And that means I get my play fix, right? It's like, I've gotten really used to spending, you know, my entire life devoted to this game. And it's weird because there are people who are really, really into, again, there's optimizations all over the place in it. There's people who's really, really into it. You know, but I'll never be that into it, even at the free level, you know. And to me, it's like, well, why are you wasting your time on this? I can't help it. I can't help it. And prior to wasting my time on this, I was wasting my time on Baseball Mogul. So, you know, whatever. I'll squeeze in a couple more rounds around before I throw myself back into my addictions. I'm playing the second version on my wife's computer because you can't run it from the same machine, and I tried doing it, you know, using a VM, and it just ended up kind of slow. Well, actually, it ended up causing problems, but going up to the loft, sitting at my wife's machine, you know, I mean, it doesn't even matter that I'm not like looking at her desktop or whatever. I just have the game filling the whole screen. Just seeing her machine, it throws me into a funk. Anyway, this game is nowhere near as long as I probably am making it seem. It's a longish game by modern standards, but all of the commentary on the game interlaced with my own personal existence is definitely slowing things down. On the other hand, it's also longer because I'm playing it solo and having to do the thinking on every player's turn again and again and again. And that, like I said, not a good game to solo. Isn't to do with the track laying. It's to figure out what I'm doing with my train on that track. You know, once I might forget a little piece of track or something. Apparently, there's an Empire Builder Express maybe it's just called Empire Express. That sounds like an actual train. Uh, where the track pieces are essentially already on the board and you just buy them up, a la Rail Baron, except I guess you can't move over them if they're not built yet. That wouldn't do it for me. I mean, I would still have to remember which direction I'm going and what I'm carrying and everything. Used the other way out of Portland. It's a little bit shorter, I think. I'm not counting. But it's pretty humiliating because the thing is, I have to drop down here to get through the Pittsburgh route. Hey, maybe draw another little loop. An interesting little choice. I'm going to pay $4 to run down to Des Moines, grab my piggies. Not thrilled with this, but whatever. But what happens if I bounce back on Blue's track? I've already paid. I may have to pay a little bit more to link it up, but it may save me some movement. And if it's like just $1, maybe it's worth it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Be $2 more to link it up. I don't think it saves me anything. It doesn't look good. Flying around the track, nobody's landing anywhere. Pretty easy. I do have to keep checking every turn though to see, hey, where are you going exactly? What's the order? And after doing green, I moved down to blue, moved my first space into Detroit, think, oh, I got a big delivery for Detroit. It's not, it's just imports. I look over here and start to pay out the Detroit sugar that green's gonna get. No. Notice the problem was I started pawing through the cash for the payout, and I'm like, oh, holy fuck, they have a lot of money. I didn't think Blue was doing okay. They're not. All right, so I got a derailment here. Any train within 3 of Omaha, Pittsburgh, close, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Kansas City, and St. Louis. I'll lose a turn and a load. Got lucky there. I mean, especially bad if you draw it on your own turn. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Where am I heading? I'm heading to Oklahoma City and Duluth, which are both hooked up. If I still had imports on board, that's not a bad run, and I may want to run back and get them. I do go to Philadelphia there. Fargo is up in Duluth territory. On the other hand, Sheep to New Orleans, you know, it's about as far a run, but I'd have to build all this extra track. I think I'm going to do the boats to Fargo. I'm sure they need boats there. I feel silly. Zip, 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 zip. You know, I'm wasting time, but I think it's the best use of that card. Understanding the fact that my track over here really sucks. My connection east-west on the northern side is shitty, and you know, then I have a double track for it. Got to build that track. Well, since I'm going through Fargo, I might as well shoot that way to Duluth instead of crossing the river again. Ed makes its delivery of sugar up to Calgary. Got a couple more, you know, big, medium, whatever runs. This was somewhere in between those two, mid-large. Now I got another medium, which is Savannah corn. I can pick up corn on the way. I built some quick track to St. Louis, which also is not a great place. It will not be a major hub. It's hard to tell because, you know, when you're in the city itself, St. Louis, Buffalo, they seem like humongous rail yards there. But, I mean, all trains go to Chicago. You can't say that about, you know, about something like Buffalo or St. Louis. And so I don't know. I mean, I don't know that Kansas City is known the same way? I mean, Chicago is the rail center. There's no question about that. But are these others? New York is pretty damn big. I'm assuming Los Angeles is definitely that large as the port. And, some of it's also probably due to the game, etc. But, yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. Anyway. A likely prospect for a return trip to the West, big cars to Los Angeles, and, in fulfilling that, there are probably going to be other things that fall out for me as I drop off these other goods. One of the many things we discussed when I was first starting to play this game and paying attention to a lot of stuff, and things that I feel do add something, unlike my life. So Green has this cheap, sparse track running through nowhere. Comes out of Atlanta. There's no goods there. And hasn't reached their next destination. They're running a little dangerous. They don't have an extra slot to protect their 2 expensive deliveries that they have sitting on them. Now, obviously, I'll drop the oil if I have to. But if a derailment happened to me, and that's the only thing that does this, I would be in some trouble. I'd lose, a relatively large run that I'm hauling around. Now, it costs money to run your track through cities, sort of. I mean, especially if you're not hooking that city up, If you're hooking the city up, running the straight track through, that makes perfect sense. I don't know if Green ever used Norfolk, but running through it was a good idea, in my opinion. Straight track, hit the city, paid it a couple extra bucks, but that's okay. I got good track for it. There's no argument like with the mountains where it's going to have a weather effect or anything like that. On the other hand, sometimes you have to be parsimonious, and you're like, well, I'll avoid the city. And, obviously you wouldn't jag out of your way. I mean, if you're $1 short otherwise, yeah, you wouldn't jag out of your way to go up this way to New York. But also, yeah, I think Green was there fairly early. This is just insane. All 4 players, parallel track, just running down, but sometimes interfering with each other a little bit. It's like this Savannah corn. And, I could have gotten wood for Atlanta, but it would have involved a fair amount of pain, Because coming from Calgary, I'd have to get close enough to hop in and out. I'd have to pay $4. It would use up all the money that I make for it, and I don't need that track. I'm hooked up in my 5 cities. There's absolutely no reason for me to go pay $20 to make $20 anymore. Breaking even doesn't make any sense once you're in this stage in the game. But doing that Savannah corn run, which, that cost me a fair amount too. $4, right? I'm still making 10, but it's by far the best use of that card. But when you have these little throw-ons that get added onto your run, they are really hard to remember. And I am terribly worried that I'm just going to run past St. Louis and not remember why I have that, that I just built that track or whatever. And that happens to me in opposed play as well. It's just so damn much to remember about what your little route is. And it's the kind of thing that, it doesn't interest me to have to remember, to figure something out and then have to remember it for the, for the next 4 or 5 turns or whatever it takes. It's getting shorter now with the faster trains, but sometimes it can take you several turns, and, there's just not a good place to stop or whatever and take a breather. And even in opposed play, you don't want to just sit here all for 4 hours or whatever straight through. I don't. There's weird points where you got to make a decision which way you're going. So I moved 4 of my movement points to Vancouver. I could deliver my piggies at Vancouver for 27. Then I could wipe out you know, and lose my tourists to Seattle. Now, the fact that they're about the same price, I'm going to do it in this order because this order actually gives me advantages. If I want to go south or something, I have a little bit more flexibility, although honestly, the amount of movement points I have left and the fact that I have no track here means that it is pretty much meaningless. I drew some pretty iffy cards here. No biggies. So I've got this copper going across to Atlanta. I can get copper at Portland. And I think I was thinking about doing that, and I may do it. This is my old card. I've got 6 movement points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gets me back $4. I've got that. So that's a workable card. This was my next draw. I have nickel on board. I picked it up at Vancouver. Cheyenne's not that far as the crow flies or whatever, but it's kind of out there from my track. I could make that, but I'm not going to make money off of doing it. But okay, that may be the best I can do from that. And I may just need to, because black just doesn't have enough coverage of the board. Unlike red and green, who've kind of sprawled across the center, black has spent a lot of money developing track that does not cover large sections of the board. And so there's these incidental runs that you need to fuel your train just don't work. And then the last card. And I mean, uranium is nowhere near me. It's up at Regina. I could run that back and forth for 14. That might be my best move. But what a waste. The other is Boston Tourist. That's totally useless. And iron to Pittsburgh. Where the hell did I get iron? There's more than one place. But Duluth. Yeah, that's not too far away. That may be what I use that for. So, yeah, I really don't like the idea of running back and forth here to grab that uranium. Basically, it almost never makes sense to make the entire run to pick it up and bring it back to where you are. So, since I don't have the big heavy train anyway, I guess we do this. And then think about that Pittsburgh run, or maybe ditching our cards. We'd be ditching them in an area that's not too bad. It's just, well, actually, no, we wouldn't, right? Because we're bringing, yeah, we'd be going down to Atlanta, so that's not too bad. Well, we have to make the Cheyenne run. That's when we make the decision on whether or not to do the Pittsburgh run. Okay. Is blue and black have this incestuous track running. All the way down here to here. Here they start to diverge, but again up here, of course here everybody's doing the same thing there. Here everybody's pretty much doing the same thing. Yeah, I mean their track layout is almost identical across the whole damn board. This is really weird, and I might well be going to Duluth to pick up that iron, just to match others. Now, red and greens is also very similar, but there's some differences. Fairly significant ones. Red branches out more out in the west. And let's see, green has this little hook up here. Red hasn't even connected that loop, that kind of largish loop, because I mean I just built this. So exact count, I make it into Boston with green, which means I don't waste any movement on, because I want to have at least 6 to go in and out of Portland. Oh boy. Well, green goes almost to Seattle. And I also have this Portland, Oregon. Okay, so this is not too bad. I have the Los Angeles, and then I have these two on this card. So we're getting a return trip built out. I need a wood, just for good luck. Right? What am I carrying? I'm carrying my sugar to Detroit. But otherwise, yeah. And I did not pay red yet. It's so painful to pay. I mean, at this stage in the game, early on, you're trying to make some money and expand your track. You're trying to expand your track and get enough money that you can make your next runs. And sometimes that $4 seems like such a deal. But here, you know, you're making, I don't know, it wasn't a bad run. It was 26. But it just hurts to have to pay because you're like rushing for the end of the game. Bait for blue as to which direction to go. They've got Oklahoma City and Fargo and Duluth. There's 2 deliveries up here. Getting the 2 out early will help me make decisions better. And the thing is, my best run is really coming from up here in the northwest and running to the east. But maybe that's not what I get. Maybe I get something that's like South Central or something, you know? So I might as well go with the weight of the cards and drop the two that are more likely to, you know, to get more information ahead of time. I may end up regretting it though, you know. Good time to stop when, you know, every player has all their loads delivered or anything, you know, or if there is, it's really, really rare. And I picked up not my piggies, that's what I was thinking, but my corn in St. Louis. I think everybody's in kind of a good position where I can reconstruct what they're doing relatively easily from my little markers maybe. If I keep the crayons where they belong. And I think it's time for me to take a break. Fair, this is the break. I mean, I'm putting in full days on this damn video game. But it feels like I need a break from this. Okay, back down here after blowing the whole day. But yeah, I figure I'll do a couple more turns around, see what happens. This is all I can do. Playing this computer game is just sucking everything. One thing that's kind of nice about it, I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but it's getting me kind of in the mood to deal with Gloomhaven again. I don't know if I'd video it because I think that's part of what got in the way for me. Just playing it and maybe coming back with reports as to, you know, major events or something. The thing is, it's been so many years that's been set up like that. Ready to be played, but then this whole room got, you know, fucked over by the flooding. It didn't flood in here, but all the shit ended up in here. And, you know, now it's a little bit clearer, but there's still a lot of crap in here that really belongs in a different room. I have a room designed for crap. I just let it spill everywhere else. Thinking about the game, Green took their move. They're heading to Detroit. Lucky that's where their cars come from. I don't know where they get the corn. Des Moines? Okay. They have a pile of money. They have like 175, 179, 180. That's really close. And if I add this 58, if I get another 20 run going out west, the game is over. But if I don't, that puts you in a weird sort of situation where maybe you don't want to make a huge run that'll win you the game. Maybe it's better to discard your cards and look for something shorter. Or maybe if you've got, you know, moderately short runs, but sometimes it's worth spending a turn towards the end of the game to discard cards just because the likelihood of a set that'll allow you to win or win quickly, more quickly, is fairly high comparatively. All depends on where you are. If you're way out west, man, anything you got, just take it. Sometimes you avoid it, but this time the great equalizer comes up. Everybody counts their cash. If they have at least $50 million in cash on hand, they're going to have to pay a penalty. And notably, the closer you get to winning the game, the more of a penalty you pay. Big deal in the end game. If this thing comes out early in the game, it's no big deal, which is one of the reasons why it's the reshuffle. I don't know if that... This rule book is kind of painful to deal with. Yeah, there it is. They say use a blank card for the reshuffle. Instead of that, we always use this because we saw this as the most important card to always be in the deck towards the end of the game. Now, it could conceivably come up multiple times because of that. That would be true if you used a blank too, but by making it the trigger, it I don't know. It just seemed more reasonable to me. Anyway, this is the thing, you know, that maybe draws red and green a little closer. One problem with this, you could be hauling a load of yummies. Red is. Green hasn't delivered their 35 sugar. And you're not going to get taxed on that. You get taxed just on the cash on hand. Now, you have to save up cash on hand to win the game. I'll figure out what we're looking at. At the high end, though, we were looking at, what, 179, which means he's going to have to pay $20 million. And that means he's probably got no easy end in sight. All right, we'll just do them all. What the hell? Here, and this is the only time you know how much money somebody has. He has 104. Wow, that sucks, because that means he pays 15. Like with the probate that I went through, there are direct cutoffs, and unlike, you know, the U.S. tax scale, which says you pay this percent on this part of your income, this percent on this part of the income. Nah, this is just hey, how much you got? Yeah, I'll take that much. And that's how, you know, essentially, basically the trigger on mine was $75,000. Below that, you use one process, which is much, much cheaper. And above that, you use another process, which, you know, cost, supposedly it was going to cost about 10 grand. It ended up significantly less than that. But yeah, it still was a more complicated process. Now, if the money had been the house instead of just cash, it would have been totally different. Like, that goes up to like 250 or something. Well, okay, the house is worth more than that now. So now 170, 182. Wow, that's pretty hefty too. Another 20 million for red. Okay, so I didn't know red is actually winning. Not only were they ahead on cash, but they've got a load to deliver here, which is bigger than that sugar load. But green has another load, or another delivery set coming up. And now poor black, well, 102, which is approximately in the same range as blue was, which is going to be 15 million. I got to make some change with that one. Actually, kind of at the point before I drew that of, well, you know, I always kind of play things out, but I think this game is just greens to win. I mean, I think they've just got it in the bag. That's not the case. Red and green are really competing tightly, and blue and black are competing fairly tightly. Now, the problem, of course, is I got to reshuffle these cards, and it's a big deck. It's painful to reshuffle, and they're very, very stiff cards. Stiff cards are a pain in the ass to shuffle, and there's just no way I can shuffle the whole deck at once, so I break it into pieces. It's going to take me a little while to do it, in part because they're stiff. You know, with like easy flexible cards, here I am doing this with my hand, but you can't see it. I'm always talking with my other hand. With easily flexible cards, it's just, you know, it's riff, 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 and they just go by real fast. But when you're dealing with ones like this, you just can't, I can't shuffle them very quickly. So, you know, and I kind of insist on, well, a 52 card deck should get 7 shuffles. Well, what do I got here? I got 2 larger decks, each of which is going to get, you know, 4 or 5 shuffles, and then I'm going to cut them and shuffle in the 2 cuts, again 4 or 5 times, and then shuffle it all together, layer at a time. So, you know, a couple of minutes of shuffling, given the difficulty in using these cards. I don't know if the later ones had better cards. These cards are, you know, like Risk cards. You could say they're poker quality. I've seen poker I've seen playing cards that are just as bad as these, at least. But yeah, they don't have the same flex that, you know, your decent poker cards would. Lines on it. At least they're not tiny little decks, which throw me. Talking about Gloomhaven, where, you know, you have maybe 10 or 12 cards in each deck, and many, many decks, and I feel like even if I don't know what position the cards are in, subconsciously I might be directing them, you know, is something that I know I can't do when I'm doing a bridge shuffle or whatever, but there's no way, you know, when I'm just, you know, mixing cards, small stack of cards together with an insertion shuffle. I mean, I clearly could control them. Therefore, do I know what's going on? So what I do with them is I kind of shuffle them a little bit so I don't know what the hell is going on. And then I roll a die for each card to see where it ends up in the deck, which to me is insane, you know. But any game that has like little tiny decks of cards, probably 12 is about where I feel like I can start shuffling it and not be certain. But, you know, some games have like 6 cards or something. Gloomhaven, I think, sometimes has really, really tiny quantities. It's just like, shuffling doesn't work here. After all of that, the tax card comes up again. Oh, what do we get here? I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm running Duluth and then Oklahoma City with that wood. I already delivered the imports. I can't have anything else on my thing. And what do I get? Salt Lake City needs wheat. I'm in wheatland, more or less. Oklahoma City needs oats. Detroit needs machinery. All of this is kind of shit. I'll pick up some oats. I've got to go to Oklahoma City anyway. So this looks like a, you know, I mean, the biggest thing is a 13 million to Salt Lake. And I can pick up wheat at Oklahoma City if that ends up what I want to do. Highly unlikely, though. I think I'd rather just get rid of the card than, you know, than try to get an extra $5 running somewhere else. I used up 9 movement, or no, I used up 3 movement. So 1, 2, 3, 4 more gets me to 5 remaining movement. And then I'm going to deal with this. A pile of shit. I have that Oklahoma City, another Oklahoma City. I got Cole going to Kansas City. I'm just going to try to ditch all these cards for what I can get from them. I get Cole right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got my loads in place if I can remember what the hell I'm doing. Do I go everywhere? Yeah, I know I'm being... Kansas City and Oklahoma City. That's all she wrote. Detroit, I need to pick up those cars for Los Angeles, but I just drew an interesting card. Too bad I don't have copper on board, but that would be for the way back if I wanted to do that. Iron to Toronto, that sounds hideous. This is coal, right? Gotta always check. Birmingham and Duluth are the only places to get iron. I'm not that far from it, but I have fish sitting on board, and Sudbury wants fish. So that's where I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna haul that over there. You know, an extra $10. It's not great. you know, the run is about as far as the fish run would be, but it gets rid of a shitty card and gets me a third card that maybe I can make a bigger run going out west than I'm already planning. Some people might ignore this card or plan on it for the way back. It's not a bad choice. It really isn't. But you would probably ditch the fish, grab something else, maybe another cars, probably tourists actually, and run. Which way do I want to go? Well, that 58 is not enough to win me the game. That's the first thing. Second thing is, well, yeah, I can do it that way. The 58 is not enough to win the game. The 85, I don't think is. It's going to be close. Yeah, the 85 will win me the game. And that would just be running in and out. I'd have to get copper, which I get in Portland. But on the other hand, what's my chance of getting another, you know, reasonably moderate run when I drop this off? So I'm going to run that to Sudbury. I think it's the better move. I don't know for sure. I could just run up. Horrible track. This little curve into Detroit. I hate when you have to do shit like that. All right. Moving on. I'm hoping to finish this up tonight, but I doubt I will. I'm supposed to have a guy come look at my roof tomorrow. It's not his profession, but he's like a linesman, and I know him from the bar, and he's like, well, I think I've cleaned roofs before, so okay. To make it into Kansas City. Now, I've known people, it's hard to memorize where all the derailments are, but they're all within 3 mileposts of a city. So I've known people who, especially right towards the end of the game, they're hauling a big run or whatever, and this is not unwise, will stop, you know, somewhere where they're not going to get derailed. Like, if they've got a full load, everything is accounted for, and, you know, they kind of have to make that load. They don't want to lose the $20 or whatever that ditching one of the pieces would be. And it's kind of clever. I'm not that smart. It clearly wouldn't apply to Blue here. First of all, they're well behind. They're not close to winning, and they need to squeeze every little drop out of their choo-choo. When Red was up here, they picked up a card that made them go, I don't know, bopping around up to Calgary or whatever. And they got something kind of similar here, Savannah Oil. I'm going to Savannah, right? The other two pieces are harder. It's possible cattle to New York. Possible. But that, I'm Red. Yeah, I go there. Screw it. Yeah, I'll do that. Because Raley's the end of my stop, but I gotta go right close to Savannah, and I can make some quick decisions when I hit there. But yeah, I mean, my thought was, you know, oh, I could run over, grab oil, it's near me, you know, but it's not that near me, and it would cost me as much as the run is going to produce, which you don't want to do at this point if you can help it. But we got a good answer. I didn't realize that I was one of the two people who went into Miami. I don't know why. I'm having trouble remembering who's who, even though the crayon's sitting right there. The question, hey, if I'm going Savannah Raleigh, why don't I dip down to Miami first? And it's a good question. I'm not sure if I want to branch down or head over, make my drop, because it's quite possible there could be a couple of things from the south heading up to New York. If I hit Raleigh first, I might get another one. So I kind of favor that more. It's not that far away. It's not going to cost me that much if I do decide to backtrack, but I get more decision options. Question 2. They pulled into Cheyenne, picked up their moo cow. They don't need that anywhere. But what they got, and it's a pity because there's a Miami on here, which might mean that there's a reverse, something that's delivered from Miami. That often happens on cards. I'm trying to deliver copper to Atlanta. That's been my whole purpose. But I ran out of my way. I ran back and forth and everything. I thought about this Vancouver uranium run. Now I've got trees to Houston. I think I want to go back. I want to run the uranium to Vancouver. Uh-oh. Nope. I thought there was wood in both Portlands. There should be wood over here. What the fuck? What? Yeah, there is. There it is. It's so fucking hard to see. Yeah, so another trip to Portland, I think. Because now the Vancouver run makes sense in conjunction with this. At least to my twisted mind. So back we go. This is not often the case. And it may still not be wise, but I'm just not seeing much I can do with this card. I could go on a death march to Miami, but that would be riding someone for 2 turns or paying as much more in track. So to get me close and still having to pay someone. Get the luck. I was going to say, before I drew another disaster, which is going to affect me. The Teamsters strike again. I made my delivery to Kansas, but I'm not going to be able to make my delivery to Okie City, which I have 2 things there. I've got to go there. But what I was thinking was, you know, the nature of the game changes to a large extent. Like, in that early game, you're scraping by, you're trying to make an optimized run that builds you the track, that builds you some track that might be useful. And you really hope you end up with something like red or green had, you know. And if you end up with something like blue had, you know you're not going to win unless you get really, really lucky. But then at the end of the game, you're really looking, you know, not necessarily what can I deliver, but more, yeah, but what can I deliver the most efficiently at this point? So, you know, this is why the Sudbury trip, yeah, it's not necessarily the best run, doesn't get me any additional track, but it's getting me money and it's getting me another card. And maybe it's the card that's the most important thing, because when I draw that card, maybe it's nickel or cars or something else going out west to fulfill the rest of, you know, to be that third big run, part of my big run. I don't know. But in this case, blue just got screwed. They're not going to be able to pick anything up, and we get another card, which is Bauxite. Not far from Bauxite, going to Los Angeles. I am far from Los Angeles in the sense that I don't go there. That's another thing you can do. For $8, you could end the game by, you know, you end up paying $8, but if you make like, you know, a couple of 30 runs off of it or something, it's well worth it. And you don't have to get your train out of there ever. So you're only paying 8 instead of 16 or whatever, you know, for a couple turns travel on somebody's line. Another little thing to just keep in mind. Fruit Loops to Duluth, I don't know. Well, we want to see what happens with our other card. 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 11 movement, can't use it. Won't be able to pick up next turn either because I'm the guy who drew the card. Anybody else draws it, I'm boned for 1 turn. I draw it, I'm boned for 2. I decided to head down to Miami and pick up those moo cows. What other kind of cows are I drew another card. Maybe it's useful, maybe it's not. Winnipeg rice is the most likely to be useful, but I might well be doing Los Angeles wood instead, or I might be pitching cards. Yeah, it's if you can't get a synergy towards the end of the game that kind of works, it may not be worth doing. It's not worth bopping all over the place, making like $14 a run or something in many different directions. Blue's not the only one who's screwed, and green is heading to Sudbury. They can't turn around, so they'll sail into there, and they're not within 3 of the ocean or the Gulf. So yeah, we'll just sit there and let our fish become less fresh. Jack ran through Regina and grabbed their cows from there. Yeah, currently a manhunt going on there. Probably be resolved by the time I load this up, whenever that is. But yeah, no impact on red or black at all, but green has to pick up their fish and get moving now. Kind of pick up. By which I mean drop off. I drew a useless card for this situation. Tourists to Montreal. Ride over 2 people to get there, yeah, right. Portland, Maine needs oil. I don't have oil on board, and again, I'd have to, run red all the way up. Might actually have been able to bounce out, or at least come out far enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No. Not quite. By bounce out, I mean I'd land on Portland and be able to come out at least one space and then pay, $3 instead of 4, but not to a player to join their track. And then steal to Boston. Again, I don't have steel on board, and I'm not really near it. So this is a really iffy card. Maybe if I'm going way up northeast again, I pick up some oil on the way. But yeah, it doesn't look good for me. And now I have my full 12 movement heading for the far west with everything I need. I have wood on board. I don't think I need wood, but I don't want to carry a double nickel, so I'll probably pick up tourists in Chicago. Damn, you don't know where you're going to end up when you get on this train, guys. I kind of like the idea. Also, there's the honeymoon game where you leave the chips on the board. I find that too obnoxious, mechanically, like just in terms of the pieces don't support it well. You put something here and it's like, I can't see the city anymore. I can't see the track. It doesn't really work, but it makes some sense with some loads. Except that you're not really transshipping this stuff. You're just hauling it somewhere at random and dropping it off at random. And now, you're creating new locations where stuff can get picked up and creating a more complicated manifold that people have to worry about. Okay, great. But I really love the idea of the tourists just kind of wandering around, like in the middle of Salt Lake City or Boise or something. Hey, which never ask for tourists, but aren't far from places where the tourists might want to go. They might want to go to Seattle or Los Angeles, and they might be worth a hell of a lot there. You'd think they'd be worth even more if you found them lost in Boise. We'd be able to explore the West. We'd see the Rockies, and we'd go west, and it would be great. And then they just dumped us here. What the hell? Situation that doesn't often happen. They have absolutely nothing. The oil and wheat. Maybe they luck into something, but they're 2 new cards, so they've got a complete new slate of cards. I'd like to do something kind of cool, get some kind of synergy off of them, right? I don't see anything going out west, and I don't see anything that's west only to pick up. So I don't think the bauxite run is going to happen. But I got 3 fruit. That sounds like a winning slots thing. Are there 3 fruit in the thing? Sometimes, somebody might be carrying one of them. I think there's only 3 to begin with. So I got 3 fruit. if I go down to Tampa, which I get to, I can pick those up and I can drop them off at Des Moines, Duluth, and Montreal. That ain't bad. Which order I do them in, maybe I hit Montreal first. But yeah, that looks like a really doable run. I'm going to pick up stuff, even though I don't need it and it doesn't serve me any purpose whatsoever. I'm going to grab 3 oil. Just like somebody might grab all the fruit. By grabbing that all, I'm making it harder for someone to make a big run. Wheat would have been a possibility too. There's as much wheat as there is oil. I don't know. Oil is more exotic. And you kind of want to do it this way. You want to grab a whole load of stuff. And now I head off to get to Tampon Bay. Back on the first video, and I've alluded to it at another point or two. It was the Toronto song. Couldn't remember. I think maybe I was going to kind of try to sing some of it or something for whatever reason, but that would have been a bad idea. I probably wouldn't have actually done that. But like with Imperial Glory, I can't not know something. So on Friday, and I actually requested it on Friday when I went dancing. They didn't play it. I went and looked it up, and it's The Kings Slipping to Glide. And this beat goes on, right? Yeah. Really, I love it. It's a total one-hit wonder in the sense that their other songs don't even sound the same at all, which is kind of weird. It's like, I don't know, they came up with like one really, really cool song that really hit it and never really tried to reach for that same feel or anything. And I always wonder when, usually you'd think most songs on an album, especially an initial album like that or whatever, they're only one I think, kind of all kind of hang together as something. If you think about, some of the really classic big first albums, I'm thinking things like Boston's first album or whatever. Of course, all of Boston's songs sound pretty much the same. I like it, but they all kind of sound the same. But it's just, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'd expect there'd be like something that showed that same kind of hint to it. No. Close. Okay, no wipeout. Up to 215, I think. 219. I need a $30 run. I got 18 from my cattle going up to New York. Real fucking close. So this is not going to get done. Probably not anything off this card. I've got 3 movement points left. That doesn't matter much. Montreal needs nickel. That's only $7. That's not going to make it, and I'd have to pay someone. No good. Sudbury needs steel. I get to Sudbury. I don't get to steel, do I? That's $10. So I'm at 219, 237, 247, not quite enough. Damn it. Because I could run back down to Birmingham, grab the steel, and I have that. I'm real damn close at that point. Do I do it? Is that my best run, or do I look at this and say, I've got 2 shitty cards, unless I draw another one, I throw a turn away? Because this will give me 2 shots at getting, an extra $4 or $5 close run. There's nothing that works here. I don't know. Ugh. And there's no requirement to declare when you get to a certain amount. Like in Rail Baron, there's a requirement when you hit like 200 million, you have to declare that you're within 50 of winning. You don't have to do that here. And that triggers this whole weird rover play that, people who are really doing poorly can try to hunt you and steal 50 million from you or whatever. I don't know. Damn it. I mean, there's closer steal, but I can't get there and make it at all worth it, can I? Certainly not moving this turn. I'd be coming out of here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Nah, I can't quite make it. Jesus. I could spend a couple more bucks, but then I'm burning that little $10 card. I think it's worth it because it gives me 2 shots at the win. The problem is green, I know they're doing well. I don't know what they need, but if I'm doinking back and forth, I may end up losing the win to them because they have a straight route. Now, this is the point where my buddy Tom would lean over and start looking at the cards of the people he's worried might win and just start staring at them to figure out, hey, where are you going? What are you doing? If you like, just ask, I'll tell you. So damn easy. Oh, I should pick something up. Guess tobacco. It doesn't really matter. I'm carrying coal that I don't really need. But it would be, what am I saying? Damn. I don't know what I'm saying. Oh, this would be an absolutely trivial choice if it was enough to win by. I'm doing it anyway because Birmingham's not that far away, and I think throwing 2 cards through a regular movement rather than drawing only 1 through my regular deliveries and then probably having to throw a whole turn away. But I'm throwing a couple of turns away going this way. That's the problem. It's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. Fuck it. It is not worth it. We're just going to run up to New York. Hope we get a short run. And if not, we throw cards. But, yeah. Yeah. Because you got to start looking at it in terms of how many turns is it going to take. And the 2 turns that I take from this mean I get 2 discards, really. And, it's going to take me another turn to get up to Sudbury. And then to get out of there. Yeah. Definitely not worth it. Definitely not wearing my underwear. Decision, though, that in the game, I may well, like in an opposed game, I may well go the wrong way, make the wrong choice. I'm so much less likely to do so, I think, in a solo game. No pressure, I mean, it's not a matter of no pressure that I'm going to win or anything. No pressure that I'm delaying the game when I'm thinking. Also, the fact that I'm talking out loud to the camera always helps. Yeah, it just clears my thinking. It allows me to express whatever's coming to mind. It's just sort of the verbal diarrhea has thoughts sort of pooling around behind it somewhere. And sometimes they don't congeal. Sometimes they congeal better than they come out of my mouth. In fact, usually they do, but sometimes they don't congeal at all unless my mouth is running. It's why when I do thinking of anything, and I don't walk much, so this is a problem, I'm usually walking when I'm thinking. Like, I go for a long walk, and that's when I, start figuring things out and coming up with ideas and whatnot. Now, I get that on my Friday night going dancing or on my shopping trips or whatever. So I get a reasonable amount of, not reasonable in terms of like, how much thinking a person should probably be doing every day or whatever, but I get a reasonable amount of it to consider. But the problem is, whenever I'm out walking and thinking, it doesn't necessarily translate into something that's workable when I get back from the thinking, right? It's like I thought about carrying a recorder or something like that to babble to, but man, I think that would spoil it, you know? I don't know. So Black just went delivered to Vancouver. Made their money, 15 bucks, whatever. Yeah, 14 bucks. They're not very rich. A little over 100 again. I drew sort of one of those bonanza type cards, you know. I'm right in the area of Seattle, and I get a Seattle and Portland, Oregon card. If I was hauling these random things, instead I'm hauling cattle. Doesn't really help. Wouldn't have been as big with cattle. Should have been hauling sheep. No, that's not where I came from. I came from here. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Probably should have been hauling oats so that I could deliver them to Seattle. It's like oats and wheat are actually probably the best choices because there's cattle a little closer, you know, a lot closer. Out of all the things that I was traveling through, and oats is one of the two things. Would have been a quick bonus of 22. Instead, I have enough movement to get me to Seattle. No real reason for me to carry a load of anything. I'm not feeling dicky like Blue is. And yeah, I guess I'm just picking up my wood for Houston. And unfortunately, I got to pick up copper too. I lost my copper somehow. I wanted to carry, I knew I was going back, so I wanted to carry other things, but I grabbed the uranium and I grabbed the cattle. And, you know, had I grabbed the right thing, or at least one of the reasonable things, if I grabbed something reasonable, I'd have a 50-50 chance of having fallen to some money. But you don't always consider everything. I pulled its "Hey, do I win" card. Lead to Norfolk, that's not going to help. Copper, I'm nowhere near. I'm near imports. I can get them to Atlanta. Imports, I just have to ride straight down. It's only $9. I'm at 237. That puts me at 246. Just like with the other run that I was considering, Steel to Sudbury. Now, if I had done the Steel to Sudbury, this would be a good follow-up. If I'd done the Steel to Sudbury, maybe I'd have two cards that could work together. I don't know. But, yeah. I can't throw right now. I got to decide. You know, I'm a couple bucks short. I have $7. Or I have 7 movement. I'll pick up my boat. I'll pick up some tourists, because I go through there. I will not carry any tobacco because I'm real near tobacco. And can't get the fishies. You know, I think I make this run and hope for something tiny to just show up or whatever. But I'm carrying some goods that aren't from right down here. So I could get something, just fall on it. I could get something that's a short delivery from here. Or I could throw the cards and look for a short delivery for the next turn. But yeah, I mean, the game is real close. Now, green is a long way from making it to their big money. And I don't think they have enough, even after they make that. So I think red's got this one. But red doesn't know that for sure. They can look at green and say, yeah, you make that run, I'm sure you're winning, because I think you're doing as well as I am. I wonder where green went wrong. I mean, some of it's just luck, but I'm looking, and they have a lot of track in here that red doesn't have. And Both of them went to both of the western cities, more or less. Weird. Red does hook everything up, don't they? Yeah, they just don't have this. And I built this, which is as expensive as this stuff. So I wouldn't, I don't know. It does not look to me like I would have my bets on them being about the same. So I guess it's coming kind of to the luck of the draw and everything. Green looked like they had better track to begin with, because Red had that northeast corridor early track, which, you know, it's not terrible, but it doesn't get you across the country. It doesn't get you the big runs set up the same way. I moved my Red. I'll go here. I'm going to count Green's money, make sure. If they have enough after they make this run, I'll be a lot more comfortable, because then the margin is more reasonable. But if they don't even have enough after that, that hurts. And I thought they didn't have enough after this. Maybe it was just after the sugar. Before the tax came. A little bit more comfortable. They're at like 204, which means if they make this run, they win. But they're not going to make it likely before Red makes its, gets lucky. Whatever that means. Because they don't need much. But as Red, I would be looking here and saying, you know what? Looking at what you're carrying, the cars, the corn, the cards you have, the way you've got them positioned with your crayon over them, I think you're not going to win until you make it out to here. You wouldn't be making this run if, a smaller one would get you the win. So, or, even if it would, you don't seem to be aware of it, so that's fine too. Black's turn. They pay blue $4 to grab their copper again and some wood to make the runs that they're making. I got enough money to go up to a bigger train, but I'm just like, if I don't have the run that requires it, I'm paying a lot of money for probably not a lot of speculation time. Especially with Red leaning over and looking at Green's stuff so intently. He must be close. And that probably means they're both close. Green moves out towards the west, and it's getting a lot closer real fast. Blue trades all their oil for fruit at Tampa. Red is making this run. Yeah, I'm not sure this is wise, but okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That gives me one move. Could just fall in on me. I get $9. For imports. And see what we get. No. That's not going to do it. And I'm not allowed to pitch my cards at this moment. This is... I think Red's got it, but this is really fucking tight. So... Fargo isn't on my track. I'd have to go a long way to get that. Bauxite is near me, but Boise is not. I think Green beats me if I go out that far. Rice to Winnipeg. That's another monster run. Sheep to Denver. I'm not on the right side. The sheep are over there. So it would again cost me. Montreal nickel. Yeah, that would actually do it. I got the Sudbury Steel card, man. That'll do it. I only need like, what? I got 210, 20, 30, $46. I could just run that. And then it's a race between, and I look over here, Seattle and Los Angeles, and I can count this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Well, call it 20 because I don't have to go all the way out there. Another 16 is 36. And then he's got to go down to Los Angeles. And his track ain't the best for that. So he's looking at like 4 turns there. I think this is going to be a die roll choice where red, because yes, the information's open other than his cash, but these are the kind of decisions that like I can figure out knowing everything, but I don't feel like I would be able to figure it out as easily if I was playing opposed. I don't know if a person more dedicated would be able to. But yeah, we've got a big question here as to whether to run that Sudbury Steel, which is going to cost me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 4 turns for a $10 run. Sounds horrible. But if I ditch the cards, that's 1 turn. I might have to go pick something up. That's a 2nd turn. Then deliver it. That might be 3 or 4 turns total doing that way. This is guaranteed. And I think it's faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. It's going to take green at least 5 turns, unless they have enough extra cash to just blast their way straight down. And yeah, what does that do? I don't know. I don't know how close they are, right? They know how close they are. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave this to a die roll for red to make the decision on. But if red chooses the Sudbury, they win the game. If they choose to ditch the cards, it's a crapshoot. They may win it more quickly. They may not win. Part of the game is really cool. It doesn't last very long, and it comes after a lot of pain. Nothing against the game. It's just not my taste. But, and I don't mind it under certain circumstances, which is why I played so many games of it. But, at least some of those, so many games. But right now, it's kind of like the racing phase in Damfrost, which I really, really like. I like all of Damfrost. Compared to this, if you want to look at a good game with crayon rails, that's the one I'd recommend. That it just fits my taste better. Not as much of a thinking game, although there is strategy in it, and there definitely, you're optimizing against what's likely to come up at what time. Now, there's more luck in it too, though. But yeah, we got red racing. Maybe we don't know whether they're going to race or not. They win if they race. But we got green racing too, and just running their way up. I got to buy me some track though, and that may actually put me under 250. There's no way I can do this. I have a few bucks to spare. However, if the river floods, that'll slow me down. But I don't. If the river floods late in the game, I don't need that. And that's another thing that can break the game right at the end. Like, the Mississippi could flood, and then the game is decided by who gets to go right after the guy who discards the Mississippi flood card in order to reconnect their track or whatever, which is pretty damn goofy, but it can come to that kind of thing. I can't believe how close this is. I thought green had it, actually. Here's the $1 million die roll. Odds red has calculated it out, and they know they can win with Sudbury. Even, they ditch their cards and go for the luck of the draw. Yay. It's more exciting, man. I don't like completely predictable things. More disasters, too. Like, there's one. Heavy snow. All trains within 8 of Salt Lake City move at half rate. No movement or rail building allowed in the mountain mileposts. Oh, too bad. Terrible. And now I got to figure out what I can do with these. Jacksonville Tobacco. Well, that's $4 going into a city I control, from a city I control. That's a winner. Do I have piggies on board? No. Yep, this is my winner. I threw my cards so I don't get the turn, which means even if I was affected by this, it would be kind of moot. The game is over, but we'll play it out. Because who knows? The Mississippi could flood. Green could draw cars to Seattle. It might be enough. Instead, they draw fog. Everyone within 6 posts of Knoxville moves at half rate. No movement or rail building allowed in the mountain mileposts. Oh, shit. I couldn't move there. Shit. I moved 8. So I'm only here. I won't bury that card. But I will give back my $24. Forgot about the disaster and all my excitement. Yeah. All right. It was too good to be true, man. I'm gonna get to use its loop again, I think. I don't know. I really don't know if this actually saves him anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No. It actually costs me movement to go this way, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because it's stupid. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Gets me to the juncture, and this got me below it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, because I got to come out of there, because my track is just that brilliant. Great. Oh, well. So I screwed up using it last time, I think. Finish things up then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I pick up tobacco. I got room for it. You know, I threw tobacco out not long ago to, like, hold on to coal or something. What was that? 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Into Jacksonville. I sell it for 4. That's the game. And just to be insulting, the fog in Knoxville comes up after that, which is important because after your last play, you still have to draw a card and see if the river's flat and break the game. So that's that. I've, ramp-wise, I've put a lot of analysis into this throughout, the discussion. And here's the thing. The sparse track is good. It wins you the game. The sparser your track can be, the less money you've spent on track. You want a super freight, but you want it to make you money, which means it's perfectly fine that Black only had a fast freight. Maybe they would have lucked into something, maybe not. The chances of that, you got to kind of figure that in. But the chances of it making you $20 are not that high. You have to be carrying the right goods, draw the right card, and, whatever. Sparse track is important. You need the fast train. You can't win the game without at least the fast freight. Couple of players ended up getting what I consider boned initial routes. And, it can be completely boned. I've seen people throw their 3 cards not take a turn of building, not take their 2 turns of building at the beginning of the game, throw their 3 cards, you're out of the game at that point, right? So it's not worth delaying. You could luck out with something like this northern route that blue had to start with. That was their only, like, maybe not their only viable option, but it was far and away the one that paid for the most track, which is useful. And you can see other people went to the north, so that track eventually becomes of some value. Everybody went up to Seattle or close to it. Red got to Calgary. You don't see, what you actually do see is the 2 people who were in the lead both built to all 6 cities. The sparseness of their track allowed them that excess cost. You might get lucky and not have to, not have runs that throw you to all 6 cities, so that you can hit only 5, avoid one of these 2, and then you can afford a little bit of crappy track in the center. That's not necessarily crappy. It can save you movement points, right? And it might save you enough to actually help you. Obviously, what blue has here is horrible. But what's going on over here isn't so bad. And red's got close to that loop. Green's got that loop. It's not completely sparse track, but they were able to start with relatively sparse track. And sparse track that went through the heart of the game, so that they were able to bridge out of it and get to where they needed to go later in the game. I think that's really important. Is, green, and that's why I thought they were going to win, especially really early. I got to cut because battery's dying. I would call almost a perfect start, okay? I mean, they just had this slice going right through the center of everything. And yes, they had to build out. They got their loops, whatever, and their spurs coming off of it. But there's so much richness there. Red, I don't think that this is as good a start. But hey, they won, man. And they won and were able to develop sparse track coming out of that, which is one of the nice things. Is later in the game, your track can be sparse and running through the center in an easier way. You can avoid having to do something like this, which is just hideous. I mean, there's almost no cities out here in the West, and starting there is just so bad because you're putting so much money into that unless you get lucky, and that can happen, after you make your run here and get a run going back that way, you're sort of stuck with making runs with starting, like right at the beginning. It's worse than right at the beginning, because right at the beginning you can lay down quite a bit of track. You have $40 million to play. But once you pay that $40 million out, you're not going to make, so, blue might make it down into this area. They're not going to be able to make it to here on their next cards. They're not going to be able to make it the rich runs across here, whereas green was set up to be able, after they made their initial run, to keep running stuff back and forth through all those cities that exist there. So that's a lot stronger. Now, there are a lot of cities that exist here too, which is why, red did okay. But, well, they did at least as well. They won. But I kind of shy away from this because it's not getting you out here to build that track. However, they were able to make enough money on their north-south route to be able to slide their way over. And, this is okay too. It's just, you don't want to be way out west. It's too sparse. And I think Seattle's the worst of the two. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I think like the run down through here from Los Angeles area, or the run from here through San Francisco, it looks a little richer to me. Best of all, it doesn't run through Canada. Okay, now I'm wondering. No. I remembered something we're building in Canada was more expensive, but it wasn't this. It wasn't this game. Like Canada just charged more. I don't know what I'm thinking of, but it certainly wasn't this. Anyway, there we have it. My prediction at the beginning that Green would win was clearly wrong. Red had apparently a good enough start. And that's the thing. Your synergy off of what you draw from the deck, you know, does it fit what you already built? Do you have to keep spending? Because Green was spending a lot to keep extending their track. And they got some kind of iffy stuff. I don't know. This really isn't that expensive, but it looks ugly to me. So, I don't know. All right, I'm going to send this sucker up. I don't know if I'm going to get to review it tonight. I mean, I know the game well enough. I don't really need to catch it right after I play it. And my video game calls. It's pretty late, but gotta play on my fake account.